Typology and forms of tourism.
Typology and forms of tourism. Welcome to the series of tourism lectures. In this lesson, let us analyze the concept, the need and the use of typologies in the overall planning process and in tourism planning process specifically. Typology of tourism is the study of the types of tourism. For example, wildlife tourism, ecotourism, dark tourism, etc. Each has its own features which are different from the other types. It is a system for arranging elements in groups. Typology is a very important tool for tourism planning. It contributes to all tourism planning stages in the analysis of the existing situation, the recognition of positive and negative effects of tourism at the destination, in the creation and selection of alternative scenarios for tourism growth, and in the specialization of policy for growth of each type of tourism. The creation of typology is an essential way of recognizing different types of tourism development in places. According to Mansfeld, tourism constitutes an activity which is developed in different ways in each region, mainly because of the diversity of the characteristics of the place. This diversification requires a different way of tourism management in tourism destinations. Tourism typologies of destination areas and tourists aim at a more effective and comprehensive formulation of tourism policy. Tourism is developed in different patterns in places depending on the specific characteristics of destinations. Typology constitutes a very important tool for tourism planning as it supports the recognition of its spatial effects, demonstrates the way, the extent and the intensity of growth contributes in the process of rational planning and in the adoption of effective tourism policy. The growth of tourism is an outcome of many factors such as rising standards of living, improvements in transport, the growth of income and free time, the industrialization of tourism, etc. Its growth requires the contribution of environmental, cultural, economic and social factors. Let us discuss the following aspects in this lesson.
Role of typology in helping tourism development. Tourism typologies. Forms of tourism based on flow patterns. Other forms of tourism. Role of typology in helping tourism development. The creation of a typology can considerably assist the tourism planning process. The use of typologies can help determine the goals and objectives of the analysis, identification of the tourist system, the socio-economical and environmental effects of tourism in a destination area, and the stage of tourism development. Typologies also assist in deciding the development of a support process for tourism, especially when tourism planning requires policy decisions at national or regional level to suit different type, group, class of tourist areas. The steps for implementation of typology are preparation and study. The government and the private sector should explore possibilities of expanding and improving the tourism sector in a planned and systematic way. This can be done with the help of typology of tourism. Typology helps in highlighting issues and constraints of that particular area with respect to tourism development. Goals and objectives. Goals refer to general aims and objectives to more specific ones. These are basic determinants of tourism planning and policy making. Typology helps in determining the stage and need for development as desired. Survey. Typology helps in creating a collection of data both in terms of quality and quantity. The Geographical Information Systems, or GPS, can be used to procure accurate, extensive, and powerful spatial data. Analysis. After the data is gathered, an in-depth study can be made on the opportunities and constraints in a particular tourist area. Typology can help in identifying trends, problems, conflicts, and opportunities for development. Formulation of plan and policy making. This is the stage where the physical structure of the plan is decided based on the spatial information obtained. Typology helps in grouping places of similar characteristics for the ease of policy implementation. Recommendations. Alternative scenarios are evaluated and the most suitable one selected for implementation. Implementation and monitoring. For the tourism strategy to be successful, the goals and objectives identified should be implemented and monitored. Using typology makes it easier to monitor and observe the effectiveness of the plan and to study the transition that can happen between groups or classes. Typologies can play a critical role in tourism planning process, especially in cases where planning is required at a macro level, that is, national or regional level. In order for the planning to be rational and the goal of sustainable development achieved, different types of development and different types of tourism should be recognized. The creation of a typology is an essential way of recognizing different types of tourism development in space. Tourism typologies. Tourism types. Tourism is influenced by a number of factors including the place, duration, season, attractions, distance, socio-economic aspects, purpose, and sociological aspects. Let us discuss them now. On the basis of origin and destiny. Tourism is not limited within the boundaries of a nation. Tourists may travel to a foreign country or within their own borders. The following types of tourism are finding the tourist flow patterns within a national boundary. Incoming tourism. In this category are included the tourists received by a certain country from other countries, the latter being the native country of the tourist. Outgoing tourism. There are many people of a country who go abroad. Outgoing tourism comprises tourists normally residing in a country and going abroad. Internal tourism. The inhabitants of a country travel occasionally to other places within their national territories. This may be called internal tourism. On the basis of movement patterns. The tourists stay in a place for a long time, or they travel simultaneously and spend little time in various tourist places. On the basis of how the tourists spend their time, the following distinctions can be made. Residential tourism. Residential tourism comprises those tourists who have a holiday period of over 1 month and spend it in one specific tourist place. These tourists choose the quieter and peaceful places with a mild climate. Residential tourism usually takes place in a peak season, that is, the highest point of the total demand. Seasonal tourism. Seasonal tourism comprises those tourists who have a holiday period of not more than 1 month. These tourists also remain in one specific place for not more than a month. The main point of the difference in the residential and seasonal tourism is the time factor. Roving tourism. There are certain categories of tourists who travel throughout their holiday period. They travel from places to places and never spend more than 5 nights anywhere. They are continuously on the move. Their purpose of travel is different from those of residential and seasonal tourists. They are most widespread in spring and autumn. On the basis of the seasonal character, there are various factors influencing the mass tourist flow during a particular season. Some of the incentives for travel are of a sporting nature, depending on natural conditions, the seasons, or hunting, fishing, winter sports, etc. There are also religious festivals, fairs, arts and music festivals, trade fairs, exhibitions, which attract tourists during a particular season. The following types of tourism belong to this category. Winter tourism. In most of the European countries, this tourism takes place in the month of December or March. Winter tourism has two prime incentives: the search for snow and the search for sunshine. Summer tourism. Summer tourism takes place during the summer holidays. The main incentives for this type of tourism are sunshine and sunbathing, preferably in the sea. In the European countries, it is a very varied type of mass tourism. It has low average quality than that of other seasons. Circumstantial tourism. It is a localized tourism attracted by traditions, festivals of religious, artistic, sportive nature and folklores, etc. On the basis of incentives, there are various incentives which generate the tourist flow patterns. Therefore, tourism may be classified as follows. Recreational tourism. Tourists who wish to devote their holidays to rest, to recuperate their physical and psychological well-being, and who wish to refresh themselves when tired are included in this category of recreational tourism. These type of tourists want to see new things, know new people, their history, art and local customs, and explore their natural surroundings. Pleasure tourism or leisure tourism. It includes those tourists who leave on holiday for a change of climate out of curiosity, to relax, see something new, enjoy good scenery, unfamiliar folklore, the quiet and noisy modern tourist centers. Visiting sea beaches and waterfalls is a good example of this type of tourism. Sporting tourism. This tourism is motivated by the wish to practice or witness sports. In this case, there are big sports meets like the Olympic Games, the Continental or World Skiing, football, hockey, boxing championships, etc., which attract to the country not only the sportspersons concerned, but also thousands of followers and other interested people. There are winter sports, natural sports, mountain climbing, trekking, hiking, sailing, golf, hunting, fishing, canoeing, water skiing, and skating, undersea fishing, dancing, beach games, mini golf, hydrocycling, and the various indoor amusements which offer fun and diversion. India is a place for interesting sports. Polo is played at the important clubs in the principal cities of India. Skiing in the Himalayas, golf courses, yacht clubs, trekking, sunbathing, and water sports are some of the specialities in the field of sports. Beaches of Goa and Kovalam are unique for Sybarites. Business or technical tourism. Business tourism implies not only the professional journey of an industrialist, but also all journeys which include visits to fairs and exhibitions, or for technical achievements which awaken a rather general interest among people who have nothing in common with the profession in question. The inclusion of business journeys in tourism is also due to the fact that businessmen behave not only as consumers but also, often during their free time, as real tourists by profiting from the attractions offered by the country of visit. On the basis of socio-economic aspects of demand, tourism can again be classified on the basis of economic aspect of demand. Self-financing tourism. It includes the tourists who use their own means to fund the demand for travel. All the incoming, outgoing, and internal tourisms belong to this category. Self-financing tourism is profitable both for the private tourist enterprise and for the national economy. Juvenile tourism. This classification of tourism is based on the information and education of tourists. Social tourism. Social tourism is found in sectors of the population where income level does not permit to meet their demands. Social tourism is made feasible with the help of and through all sorts of facilities provided by the state and by some of the private enterprises. It is observed that the benefit of social tourism goes to the national population, as most of the tourism of this category belongs to external tourism and very few to outgoing tourism. According to range, tourism may also be classified according to its ranges. Domestic tourism or internal tourism. In this case, people travel outside their normal domicile to other areas within the country. People find it easy to travel domestically because there are no language barriers as a medium of communication. The currency, which is used in everyday life, continues to be the medium of exchange. There is no need to meet particular requirements of payment implications. It is a substitute for foreign tourism and results in the saving of foreign currency for the country of residence. International tourism or foreign tourism. It is a kind of tourism wherein people travel to a country other than that in which they normally live and which forms a separate national unit with its own political and economic system. Due to different currencies, international tourism has repercussions on the balance of payments, as each country has to balance its transactions with the rest of the world. There are also obstacles put by the authorities for crossing national frontiers, such as a need for documentation, passports, visas, and other conditions of entry and movements. All this regulates the flow of tourists. On the basis of purpose of visit. Tourism can also be classified on the basis of purpose of visit of the tourists. Holiday tourism. There is now a significant demand recorded by the tourist industry for active holidays, both national and international. In holiday camps, a great majority of people showed a desire for a physical recreation, and there was strong correlation between good behavior and sports participation. It is seen that optional vacation planning improved attitudes towards physical activities both during the holiday and on returning home. People have a great interest in hobbies and exciting holidays. Family walks on common vacation, as well as camping and any of the family tourist recreations are valuable. Business tourism. This is about people visiting on businesses, which we have already discussed. Common interest tourism. It includes tourists with other specific purposes for their journeys and is sometimes subdivided further into visits to friends and relatives, study tourism, religious tourism, and miscellaneous purpose tourism. On the basis of sociological aspects. Some other terms have been often applied more or less discriminately to tourism in particular, such as mass, popular, and social tourism, to which it is desirable to attach more precious meaning at the outset. Mass tourism. When large number of people participate in tourism, it is called mass tourism. It is essentially a quantitative motive and is based on the proportion of population participating in tourism or on the volume of tourist activity. Popular tourism. It is a qualitative motion and by its nature, it may give rise to mass tourism. It denotes activities meeting with a wide acceptance by people because of their attractiveness and availability. The acceptance by people may be as it meets their needs or tastes and its availability at a low price. Social tourism can also be classified under this category, which we have discussed already. Forms of tourism. There are various forms of tourism. The different forms are based on the duration, the number in the party, and the economic effects of tourism. These varied forms can be categorized as follows. According to the number in party, this distinction is based on how the individual elements of the trip are bought by the tourists. Individual tourism. Individual tourism is the case when a person or groups of persons leave on a journey for which they themselves establish the destination and programs and which can at any time be freely altered. The tourists move about individually or as a member of the groups, irrespective of the way they travel and the stay is arranged. Transportation, accommodation, and other elements are arranged separately either by the tourist himself directly with a carrier, hotel, or other suppliers, or through a travel agent for the individual or the family themselves. The individual or the family themselves take care of ensuring such provision or services as they might need. This is also known as independent travel. Group tourism. Group tourism or organized collective tourism or inclusive tour is where the tourist buys a trip for which he is unable to distinguish the prepaid cost of his fare from the cost of accommodation and other elements. It is also known as a package tour. The tourist may move about as an individual or as a member of groups according to a particular agreement entered into. Thus, in this form of tourism, a travel agency offers to anyone interested against payment of an inclusive sum, participation in a journey to a destination and following a program and timetable fixed in advance for an entire group. The participants do not have to concern themselves with anything, all the provisions and services being assured by the organizer. Other forms of tourism. According to arrangements, independent. Accommodation and transport arranged separately by tourists, such as in inclusive or packaged tours. According to duration. In this case, distinction can be based on length of stay or length of journey. Long-term tourism. It implies a journey of long duration, say several weeks or months for the tourist himself. In view of the extreme mobility of modern tourism, principally motorized, a long journey as a general rule means a visit to several countries, which results in the journeys being a service of short stay in each tourist place. The journey or stay at the destination should be at least 24 hours. It is also known as a trip or a visit. Short-term tourism. It covers brief journeys of a week to 10 days. When numerous, their economic importance is considerable for the nation. Sociologically, this type of tourism suits a clientele who are unable to avail long holidays. Excursion tourism. It does not involve any overnight stay. These are usually described as day trips or day visits both internally and internationally. Excursion tourism has been reintroduced into the WTO definition of tourism. It is thus a journey not exceeding 24 hours and without accommodation having to be provided. Excursion tourism is important in the areas where the favorable rate of exchange allows interesting purchases to be made at the time of journey. According to means of transport used, pedestrian tourism, example, hikers. Road tourism, example, the motor coach. Motorized tourism, example, the motor car. Rail tourism, maritime tourism, example, cruises. And air tourism. On the basis of effect on balance of payment. Receptive tourism. This is related to foreign tourist arrivals, which brings foreign exchange into a country, and this has a favorable effect on balance of payment. Passive tourism. It is a travel of residents of a country going abroad. They take out currency and thus there is a negative effect on the balance of payment. Quantitative refers to mass tourism. Qualitative is about popular tourism. Social tourism can also be classified under this category, which we have discussed already.
So far, we discussed the typology and forms of tourism. This would have given you on a broad perspective of the various types and forms of tourism that are popular across the world. People combine more than one form of tourism to make the best of it. For example, somebody visiting a place on a business may visit the places of interest in that location or travel to a nearby location for a weekend. As a tourism professional, you should also look at offering such possibilities to your customers so that they can make the most out of their trip. To be a successful tourism professional, you need to make these suggestions to your customers based on their preferences. So, read more, explore the world and share the knowledge gained with others. I am sure you will be appreciated for these efforts and will be able to win many hearts and customers too. Here is wishing you all the best. Thank you.